Now it's time to see about POM, POM, a project object model, or POM is the fundamental unit of work in Maven. So it is an XML file that contains information about the project and configuration details used by Maven to build the project. So it contains a default values for most projects. Examples for this is the build directory, which is target, the source directory, which is src/main java. So the test directory, which is src/test/java, and so on. So when executing a task or goal, so Maven looks for the POM in the current directory. It reads the POM, gets the needed configuration information, then executes the goal. So some of the configuration that can be specified in the POM are the project dependencies, the plugins of goals that can be executed, the build profiles, and so on. So other information such as the project version, description, developers, mailing lists, and such can also be specified. So then what is super POM? The super POM is Maven's default POM, Maven's default uh, project object model. So all project object models extend the super POM unless explicitly set, meaning the configuration specified in the super POM is inherited by the POMs you created for your projects. So what is a minimal POM? The minimum requirement for a POM or the project root model version. So it should be set to 4.4.0. It's our latest one. Then group ID, the ID of the project's group. Then artifact ID, the ID of the artifact or project, and version, the version of the artifact under the specified group. So then let's look into one example, so which is written in XML file that you can see on the screen. So the main tag is project tag. Inside that, all other tags has been mentioned as we were discussing just earlier. So model version, that's 4.4.0, group ID, so you can give com.mycompany.app, and artifact ID, that's my app, and version 1. So that's how it looks. So a POM requires that its group ID, artifact ID, the version be configured. So these three values from the project's fully qualified artifact name. So this is in the form of group ID, artifact ID, version. So as for the example above, its fully qualified artifact name would be, from this example, check from this example, what's group ID? It starts with the group ID. So group ID is com.mycompany.app, and after that it will take artifact ID. What's the artifact ID? So its artifact ID is my app, and then version it will take. So com.mycompany.app, and artifact ID my app, colon, then after that colon again, and 1. So this could be what the name. You can see that here, com.mycompany.app, app colon my app one. So this is one, this is a group id, then my app is artifact id, then version is one. All are separated by colon. These are colon separated name. So also as mentioned in the first around first and second slide of this part, it's if it is not specified in the POM, then the default value jar would be used. So furthermore, so you can see that in the minimal POM, the repositories were not specified. If you build your project using the minimal POM, so it would inherit the repositories configuration in the super POM. So therefore, when Maven sees the dependencies in the minimal POM, it would know that these dependencies will be downloaded from Maven repository, so which can be specified in the super POM. So before we look into some other concepts, let us look into the actual form that we use to build an application. So let me open a VS Code, and from File Explorer, let me open this in another folder. So I'll click on this, and I'll select this folder, and you could see that Maven symbol here. So let me make it bigger. You can see that Maven symbol form.xml. I'm gonna click on this and minimize. Yeah. So let me begin. So this is some standard initially, the project standard, so that it will bring all the standards from here. And here you see model version. As I was saying, let me minimize this and let me no. Okay. So now you can see that you just compare the codes one side by side. So model version, of course here there's a spring version. Here you see that model version tag, that's 4.0.4. Then you have group ID, that's a com.visual path. It, I would say, in spite of that, whatever you want, you put. I have Charan, sorry, I say Imlai Charan. So that's what an artifact ID is, v profile, or I would say then packaging war version v2 is fine, and name that you are expecting, I would say Imlai, yeah, v profile web app, and rest all you can keep it. So this is the live example, the actual example that you can see. So that's what the initial information. Then after that you have added your properties. So MySQL connector dot version. These are all information about various dependencies versions. Basically, these are versions of different dependencies that we're going to use. So let's begin with the security, then JPA version validator and MySQL connector with 5.1.36, and then DBCP database one, then JSTL, JUnit version for testing, and logback version Maven compiler source is 1.8. This is what called the properties. Then you have dependencies. What all dependencies you want to use? Spring framework, a Spring framework, and Hibernate. MySQL. You see MySQL common DBCP, uh, Javax, JUnit, Mockito, Spring Framework, Javax. So a lot of properties are mentioned here. I hope you got some understanding about how and form.xml looks like. So now let's look into the most important concept in form.xml, that's project inheritance. Project inheritance elements in the form that are merged are the following. So basically there are different elements of the form that I have shown you. Begins with dependencies, developers and contributors, plugin lists including reports, plugins, plugin executions and matching IDs, plugin configuration, resources, and the super form is one example of project inheritance. However, you can also introduce your own parent forms by specifying the parent element in the form. So now let's see this example. So for the project inheritance, so if we take the same example, let's reuse our previous artifact. So this is the one, minimal POM. So what is that artifact? com.mycompany.app colon my app colon 1, and let us introduce another artifact saying com.mycompany.app, and then here instead of my app I would say my module, and then as usual version I'll put 1. So and you can, by and large, you're using the same thing with the slight modification. So that's what it can inherit it, it can inherit the format, it can inherit the existing tags of minimal POM. So here you can see project tag is the main tag, and inside that you have subtags model, version, group ID, artifact ID, and version. So now let us specify their directory structure as the following. So it should be placed in such a way that if you have a my module, and inside that you should have a form.xml if you want to inherit it. So or else this, the form.xml is the main one. This is the main form file, that's a form.xml. Then the my module form.xml is inheriting from this, so that's the reason it's looking like this. It's this my module form.xml has inherited all the properties and all the tags of minimal POM that we have written initially. So that's why it's inherited module, it's an inherited module, it's not the actual one.